Hello there. Welcome back to Exeter World, and in case you're wondering why I have a random ball in my hand, well, I have read your responses and recommendations on here and on iFunny, and rightfully deserved, I have gotten pretty negative feedback about the audio proportion of my videos. I've gotten comments such as, I really enjoy the content, but the audio makes me want to off myself as I proceed to throw myself down my grandmother's stone staircase. I'm going to attempt to better the quality with the minimum equipment that I have, and in the case it doesn't work out well for me, well, Mr. iFunny Dweller, say hi to your grandma's staircase for me. Anyways, let's get right into the video. The United States is currently the world's only superpower, and when you're a country in such a position, you're bound to have some enemies, most notably countries like Russia, China, and North Korea. This is due to a great deal of tensions with the US, usually on the military or economic front. But what's an example of a country that still has this opponent and enemy-like relationship with the United States, but doesn't exactly make headlines? Belarus. Oddly enough, the United States and Belarus have always had this sort of tense relationship, but it doesn't really make headlines because, well, Belarus doesn't exactly have the same might as the previously mentioned countries before. But we'll go over that more in today's video of the US Relations series, in which we'll go over the relationship between the United States of America and the Eastern European country of Belarus. Relations were first established in 1991 following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, in which Belarus was formerly part of. Immediately after relations were established, the US was really interested in Belarus's decent-sized nuclear arsenal that was left to them after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The idea of a pro-Russian state having nuclear weapons wasn't exactly okay for the United States, so the US tried to persuade Belarus to disarm and destroy their nuclear arsenal.
Come in!
Hey Belarus, I really like what you're doing with the place. How's it being moved out from the Soviet house now?
It's going good so far. I just don't know what to do with this.
Holy that is a nuke. Yeah, you know that nuclear weapons, they're very dangerous and very inhumane, and that—
Wait, don't you and Russia have like 40,000 of these things combined?
Well, that's besides the point. Can you just get rid of them?
Yeah, you're right. Hey Russia, not this?
Why, thank you, Belarus! Did you just— never mind. So yeah, Belarus did end up getting rid of its entire nuclear arsenal by handing over all 81 of its nuclear warheads to that of Russia. Ukraine and Kazakhstan eventually did the same. Worst fucking mistake. Anyways, the United States and Belarus cooperating on denuclearization was the closest thing to friendly ties that the two have had. After the Belarusian election in 1994, which elected the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, many Western powers criticized the legitimacy of the election due to Belarus's suppression of certain political ideologies. This included the shunning of candidates and taking of political prisoners. The United States and Europe referred to these issues as human rights abuses, and this didn't exactly sit well with Belarus, who then expelled all US and EU diplomats and ambassadors from its country. Later on in 2001, the US condemned Belarus for yet another sly election, but the hostility was short-lived due to the September 11th attacks happening just 2 days later. Later on in 2003, during Operation Iraqi Freedom, the United States accused Belarus of providing a safe haven for Saddam Hussein, which rightfully so, Belarus called preposterous, because the only piece of quote-unquote evidence was the fact that there was a Belarusian cargo plane in Baghdad. Saddam Hussein was eventually found nowhere near such safe haven in December of 2003. Which, for Iraq being one of the world's top oil producers, it's hard to think of a country that doesn't have a cargo plane within the Middle Eastern country. Once relations between Belarus and the United States did get relatively more stable, Belarus did eventually allow US ambassadors and diplomats back into the country. But in 2006, Belarus did have another election, which didn't exactly have the most fairness and was labeled a sham election, where essentially only one candidate was bound to win while having some sort of government involvement. The US responded to the election with sanctions, and Belarus expelled all US ambassadors and diplomats again. Back in 2019, things have seemed to take a relatively good turn within the two's relationship when the two countries announced that they will start exchanging ambassadors once again. This followed Russia's decision to cut its energy and supply to Belarus, in which the US offered aid afterwards. Economic ties aren't quite present between the two. They did have an investment and cooperation agreement back in 1992, but the deal was suspended because Belarus did not fulfill its obligations. Trade between the two does exist, with them exchanging goods such as fertilizers, machineries, and vehicles, with the US being Belarus's 13th largest trading partner. With the US being a global superpower and having the world's largest economy, to be Belarus's 13th largest trading partner just shows how very little to non-existent their relationship is. Even with enemies such as Russia and China, the US is still within their top 5 trading partners, at the very least. Honestly, I had to expand as much as I could on like 3 events just to make sure this video wasn't 2 minutes long. As of April 2020, the two countries have had bilateral relations for 28 years, and the two have embassies within each other's capital cities. The majority of this video has been quite negative in regarding the two's relationship, but the previously mentioned event regarding Russia cutting off energy to Belarus can be a major game changer. Belarus is currently a major ally to that of Russia, with them being part of the same NATO-like military treaty, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. But if this move by Russia does indeed lead to Belarus growing closer to that of the United States, this will be a major game changer, whether it's eventually changing the military infrastructure of Eastern Europe, or is simply just to undermine Russia. So how will Belarus's and the United States' relationship be in the near future? It's honestly hard to tell and predict. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the US Relations series. Be sure to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions for us. Stay tuned for our next video, which will be starting a whole new series, the Power of Nations series, which will be going over every single country individually and discussing their military power that they hold on the world stage. We'll be going over Afghanistan first. See you guys soon. Take that back. Honestly, not hard to predict. Just wait for Belarus's next election.